I love to garden. It gives me time to think. In fact, in the garden, I've found as much inspiration as, well, perspiration. After all, there are chores to be done. But let me show you what I'm talking about. Let me show you what happened in my garden this past week. With this early blast of warm weather, all of my fruit trees, boom, burst into bloom. And one, a peach tree, all the way to the tips of its branches, is ablaze with this deep, rosy, pink, almost red color. This is not an accident. I selected this variety, a variety known as a red barren peach. But the crazy, serious gardener that I am, I went a step further. I actually selected the exact rootstock onto which it would be grafted. I know I'm scaring you, I'm a plant geek. I have pruned that tree meticulously. It's a perfect inverted pyramid so that sunlight can permeate its canopy and ripen that fruit. And as I stood in the garden enjoying this tree, I thought to myself, can I say that in my Lenten garden, I have planted my faith with as much care? Have I taken advantage of the great Catholic rootstock onto which I am grafted in penance and Lenten practices? Have I pruned away the dead wood of my life, petty quarrels, gossip, selfishness, to make room for fruit? And look, here's another tree, a cherry tree, a variety known as a royal lemon cherry. In horror, as I approached the tree, I noticed that every bud, every flower bud on it, had been nipped off with surgical precision by some critter in the garden. I was not happy. I was not happy because I should have protected it by covering it with bird netting or something earlier. You see, this very same tree last year was the victim of a blight that claimed all of its flowers, and so all of its fruit. Look, not a leaf or branch had been consumed, just the flower heads. And as I stood there looking at it, mourning, I asked myself, can I say that I have done everything I can to protect myself from sin in this season? So to speak, is there still a serpent in the garden? Have I strengthened myself by penance and prayer so that I'm not confessing the same sins that I did this time last year? And there's a third tree. It's doing okay. Doesn't bear much fruit, and the fruit's mediocre. I had tentatively decided to remove it. I went so far as to buy another new bare root tree to plant to replace it. And then, God has a sense of humor. And you, Father Roberto, were in on the joke, giving me this particular Sunday to preach. Because I'm not making this up, folks. That other tree is a fig tree. And so what's waiting for me to study and to preach but the parable of the fig tree in our gospel? Well, after reading that, how could I cut it down? So it still stands. And like the gospel, I pruned it, I fertilized it, and its replacement has been planted elsewhere in the yard. My brothers and sisters, Lent is a garden. A garden where we can encounter the burning bush of our first reading. A garden where we can see this burning bush ablaze all the way to the tips of its branches, not a leaf or branch consumed. A variety known for the fruits of the Spirit. A variety known simply as I am. I am, that's a present progressive tense in Hebrew that means that burning bush was not there just for Moses, but it is right here, right now. Lent is a garden that is tended by you and by me for Almighty God. And the gardener in our gospel, Jesus, his son, shows us how. Look, in my own yard this week, by following his gardening methods instead of my own, where I once had a mediocre fig tree, I now have 2 nurtured ones and the promise of twice the fruit. There are always chores in the garden, but they can be summed up in this season with one question. What needs to be done today in our Lenten garden that we might bear double the fruit?